What are you most excited for in AI and in what industry?
What the skincare company is really creating on a day basis and how can it be applied to the aesthetic industry and the dermatology industry, and always how those technology can help solving those two needs, access to care and misinformation.
We have photographic system which creates a 3D avatar photo of the body and then maps out all the different moles.
Can you believe that out of 3 billion people suffering from skin disease in the world, 70% or more than 2 billion do not have access to care? And a survey which was published a year ago in the US say that 80% of people believe that skincare is rife with misinformation. We like to identify where the conversation about acne, about psoriasis, about vitiligo, about HS is happening. Who is owning it?
I'm Dr. Anthony Rossi, and this is Give Good Face, a podcast focusing on skincare science, and how to maintain and shape a healthy lifestyle. I'm joined by my wonderful friend and colleague, Dominique du Crest, all the way from Paris, France. I'm so fortunate enough to have met him many years ago at IMCAS Congress in France, which is a huge aesthetic conference, both medical dermatology, cosmetic dermatology, plastic surgery, reconstruction. It's a wonderful event that's coming back up in January of 2025. But we're here today to talk about all things digital and AI. Dominique is the co-founder of the Skin and Digital Summit. He is a passionate man. He's very passionate about skin, but his interests are boundless. I'm really thankful to have you on, Dominique. How are you?
Fine, and thank you so much, Anthony. I mean, it's a real pleasure to be invited, and I remember very well the first time we met in Paris and the great interaction that we had right from the start, you see. So it's fascinating to have the opportunity, and as you say, yeah, my passion is skin, and I hope that I'll be able to convey what I'm doing on a day basis, because this is really, really my subject. Although my interests, as you just say, are boundless, you see. But I'm quite curious about things.
Yeah, I think you have a wonderful mind because you're always thinking in a different way. I don't necessarily think it's always linear, which is a good thing. Tell us how you started the Skin and Digital Summit.
Yeah, but
what is it and what's it about?
Yeah, what you think it's quite interesting, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist. So I'm looking at your business, your profession, this therapeutic area, which is dermatology, aesthetic, from a very different angle that doctor is doing. And I think this is where beauty is melting together. Since the past 10 years, I've been looking at this business, you see, talking to dermatologists throughout the world, accessing dermatologic scientific journal, reading lab praise dedicated to skincare, beauty, and trying to contextualize all this. I came to the conclusion that dermatology as a specialty and dermatologists as a profession were facing two major challenges, you see. The first one, I call it suboptimal access to care. Can you believe that out of 3 billion people suffering from skin disease in the world, 70% or more than 2 billion do not have access to care? And this is happening both in developed world and also the underdeveloped countries. Why this is happening? How is this possible? I don't have an answer, you see, but this is something that, strike my curiosity and trigger my interest. The second thing, and I think this is also very important, this is what I call skin-related misinformation. A Spanish study published in a peer-reviewed journal, which is called the International Journal of Dermatology, showed that 65% of the dermatology content shared on social network is imprecise or generate confusion. And a survey which was published a year ago in the US say that 80% of people believe that skincare is rife with misinformation. And you see, this is a kind of situation where you have unmet needs which are not solved. This is a kind of situation that tech companies are really keen of, because they can enter a market and they are in a prime position to disrupt this market, you see. So this is all the groundwork that has been taken place before I decided to create the Skin and Digital Summit. So from those two unmet needs, I just wonder how advances in digital technology and AI could help to solve this challenge. This is very much how I end up, you see. And I remember very well that on May, that was May 2021, I published a newsletter which was named Skin and Dermatology When History Met AI. And I've made an analysis about an article coming from a Brazilian team, which was very interesting, about the history of dermatology from primitive ancient civilization to modern dermatology. And I was doing the comparison because in May 2021, Google has announced that they were going to launch an app which was called Derm Assist, you see, which, by the way, never came out and so forth. Mm-hmm. And this article that I've published on LinkedIn and on social media, I had a fantastic feedback from other doctors or people from the industry saying, but why you say this? How did you came to this conclusion and so forth and so forth? And it took me a month, actually. It took me a month to realize what people were saying. In fact, people were saying that there is not a solid conversation about AI, digital technology, and the skin business. So, and I say myself, if it doesn't exist, I want to create it. So this is how I created the Skin and Digital Summit.
Love that. No, I really love reading your newsletter, but also attending the webinars. And then when we're in person in Paris, like attending the in-person sessions, because it's highlighting an ever-evolving field. It's just changing almost every day. And that is because there's multiple stakeholders. There's dermatologists, there's tech and industry, but then there's also patients and consumers.
You're right, you see, this is something which is written on a daily basis, and technology advancement goes so quick that, as you just say, no one is an expert. I consider that no one is a true expert in that field. Anyone can participate and can share his point of view. So, and this is an everyday story which is built, you see. And what is fantastic with the Skin and Digital Summit is that, the vision is very simple. This is to create and facilitate, right, a comprehensive conversation about what advances in digital technology and AI can bring to the skin business.
And, I don't know if patients are fully aware how much AI is going on in the background. I use it on the daily basis. We have a photographic system by Canfield Scientific, which creates a 3D avatar photo of the body and then maps out all the different moles. And those are all AI algorithms that have been fed and programmed in order to actually track out every little mole that's on someone's body. And then we can monitor it going forward. There's also programs running on it that look at the size, shape, and morphology or the characteristics of that mole in that digital image and then try to score it or weight it, if it's a melanoma or if it's a benign mole or nevus. So it's really interesting that we have all this technology out there, but there's not much access to it. And I think the access is important.
You're right. Okay. I always say that in the domain of AI and digital technology, because for me, this is not AI, this is whatever digital technology, who is innovating in our field? In our field, we have three stakeholders, three industry players making money. And nothing bad when I say making money. There is a dermatology industry, there is the aesthetic industry, and there is a skincare company. Who is really innovating in the field of AI, digital technology, and skin? Sorry to say, but this is not the pharma company. This is not the aesthetic company. This is a skincare company. The skincare company are really leading the way via virtual try-on, via, multiple type of technology and so forth. And they are really the one. And other players from the dermatology company or the aesthetic company will tell you, we can't do this because there is regulatory constraint, you see. I think this is a false argument, you see. There are always ways to innovate. And I think that what the skincare company is doing in this field of innovating within digital technology and AI, will definitely lead the way the industry will evolve. Now, you just mentioned whether consumer or patient were aware. I think that more and more consumer, so if we make a slight difference between consumer and patient, for me, the same bucket. I don't make any difference. But more and more consumer accessing those tools via skincare company, they become to be aware of those technology, you see? And also I like to make a little point, and maybe we can talk in a year time, because I'll make a little announcement. I think that for me, social media is part of this revolution. There is a part of AI in social media, because when you read all your timeline, you have only the posts which are coming from your own field of interest, you see. I think there is a fantastic move happening in that domain, which is definitely on the consumer side for general skincare, because there is a conversation happening there is very big. And where is the conversation happening concerning patient facing skin disease, whether this is acne, psoriasis, eczema, vitiligo, alopecia areata, and so forth? Within the Skin Angel Summit, we are thinking, and I'm about to finalize a concept of research that I would like to propose to skin stakeholders very early 2025. As we speak, I'm writing the final concept proposal that I would like to propose to some key stakeholders. So we'll be able to come back, I hope, in maybe not a year, maybe in 6 months' time, with the result of this top-line study, where we like to identify where the conversation about acne, about psoriasis, about vitiligo, about HS is happening. Who is owning it? Whether this is individual, whether this is forum, whether this is social media platform, and so forth. So we'll be studying on this also.
You touch on some really great points, because there's so many skin issues, so many skin problems, and a lot of the AI apps that are coming out now, which are focused directly to consumers, are really more aesthetic driven, right? So filters that make you look different or enhance certain facial features that can augment, your cheekbones or your lips, sort of mimicking what it would be like to get some aesthetic work. Some of those are good, some of them are bad. How do you feel that drives rates of social media depression or a bad body image analysis? Do we have to be conscious of what we're putting out there with all these AI filters or AI face morphers?
Yeah, this is a very challenging question, and I don't think I'm the right person to really answer this, you see, because obviously on social media, if we talk about social media, you have a bunch of very good things, but you have a lot of craps also, okay? So I won't be the one, really able at discussing exactly your question. I think that there are challenges. For me, the challenge is around, when you have an AI product launching on the market, this is really the data set which is behind, on which the algorithm is trained. You see, and very much we see that data sets are not properly labeled, they are not representative enough of all the skin type, and then it can lead to misdiagnosis or misuse and so forth. So for me, the critical aspect in all those challenges facing AI opportunity, all those challenges, for me, the data sets are the most critical one, definitely.
Yeah, that's a great point. The data set, how we train these algorithms, are hugely important, not only in the scientific community, because we want to represent all different races, ethnicities, socioeconomic classes, but again, even in the direct to consumer apps as well, people need to understand it's so limited by the data that it's given. What are you most excited for in AI, and in what industry?
As I was saying, for me, what I'm looking very much, this is what the skincare company is really creating on a day basis, and how can it be applied to the aesthetic industry and the dermatology industry, and always how those technology can help solving those two unmet needs: access to care and misinformation, you see? Access to care, how to improve access to care, to dermatology care, for any type of disease. It's not super clear yet in my mind how really whether there is a tool which can definitely make a big hit. Of course, telemedicine, teledermatology, tele-expertise will help and so forth. But you see, there is a big jump to do from having 2 billion suffer out of the care, the dermatology care circle back into the care. So there is a big jump. In terms of misinformation, I think that Gen AI will bring something. You see, my dream is to be able to have a Gen AI tool which is able to address misinformation and be able to feedback and answer to the consumer and the user, providing the level of evidence which is available. I think that if we are able to, on the basis of a proper recommendation, if a platform is able to find where is the level of evidence and bring it nicely in an understandable way to consumer, that will definitely help in the future.
Will patients accept a level of falseness or misdiagnosis for access to care? What's the trade-off? Like if the algorithm can't get it right every time, will the consumer accept that, you know?
Sometimes when you are engaged with a service, you don't have 100% satisfactory of your service. So maybe I do a mistake comparing healthcare to any type of service, but more and more people are used to consume service on the web, or whether it is in real life or digitally, and sometimes you are not. There is a lack, there is a miss opportunity, and as far it is properly explained, as far this is well handled, because a system can make a mistake, but if you allow the system to make a correction and handle the issue, I think it could be acceptable, you see, to my point of view.
No, I think it's a great point. I think what people need to realize is that these algorithms aren't perfect. And like a human being,
Right.
They sometimes get things wrong. And it's the retraining of the algorithm and putting in more input and more data afterwards to correct it or to help it understand where it went wrong. So it's an evolution, right? So
Yeah.
we have to
And
be acceptable of that.
yeah, and you see, we touch now on a subject which is a bit on the side, but this is about data privacy. Again, I don't have a very solid point of view of what is good or bad in data privacy, but we have to understand that, okay, in Europe, in the US, we have there are established rules to protect data in order to make sure that data are not spread and so forth and so forth. I mean, this is called the GDPR in Europe, and if I'm not wrong, there is the HIPAA in California, which is applied to the US. Mm-hmm. But you see, in practice, we need to understand that the personal relation with data privacy is evolving. Whether this is for good or bad, I don't have any idea, but we have to understand that tech players and Web 2 players, their business model is based on using our data that we are creating on a day basis, on a single basis with our cell phone. And despite regulation, we don't know what really happened, you see. If those players, if Web 2 players, tech, don't have the data, their business is dead, you see. They are used to navigate throughout the regulatory constraints and the ability of having those data. And we need to bear in mind that those data are given to them for free, you see. But we have to understand that relation of a person with data can evolve. I mean, I've read recently a very interesting article that was from the US. 74% of US consumers are willing to share personal information with brands and retailers when they will receive some kind of incentive, such as coupon, product price, or access to exclusivity. Already in Western world, the consumer or younger generation, maybe they are not so afraid of this issue of privacy. Now, if you go somewhere else in the world, let's take in China, we have to understand that the relation with privacy in China is completely different. And this is related to the Confucian culture, where each individual has to serve the community. And the relation of privacy and data is completely different than what we have in Europe, in the US. You see, over there, they don't have issue to share their data. And as a matter of fact, the Chinese government has nominated private interest to own the data of consumer. You see, how they behave with their insurance policy, how they walk in the street, to make sure that they behave well, and so forth and so forth. So this notion of data privacy is it's an evolving field, definitely.
I do feel that times are changing and people's sentiment and their relationship to data privacy is changing on a regular basis, because in some respects it's really nice to get targeted ads and targeted to things that you want to get because it makes your life more convenient. But in another way, you're giving up a certain amount of privacy for that. But I think there's going to be a flux of how people feel about this.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful point. As yourself, you're a bit of a digital liaison between dermatology, the skincare world, aesthetic world, pharmaceutical. How is your role changing on a daily basis?
The vision of the Skin and Digital Summit is really to foster, help, contribute to this conversation. The skin and digital conversation is happening every single day by multiple stakeholders. What I am aiming at and what I really want to do and what I do actually, okay, this is to make sure that the Skin and Digital Summit is one of the main stakeholders bringing this conversation to life. You have to understand that the Skin and Digital Summit was created 4 years ago. In 4 years, I had 19 summits, Skin and Digital Summits throughout 4 continents, reaching Europe, South America, Middle East, Africa, North America. I have invited 22 startups to pitch their business, and we already had 4 peer-reviewed journals, which has read the scientific press. So I'll keep on pushing this conversation. What needs to be done now is to bring this conversation to a lower, not a lower layer, because for the time being, this conversation is mostly addressed by professional to professional, but somewhere at some point it has to be massaged down to a consumer audience, which is not yet down, but I need to do things step by step, if I may say. So my role is definitely to continue to bring this conversation to life for professional and later to consumer.
I love that. And, I'm really looking forward to IMCAS. It's probably the biggest aesthetic congress in the world at this point now.
Sorry.
No, yeah. And it goes in France, but also Asia, South America, all over the world. And it's really been enlightening because it brings together the whole community.
Yeah. Now, IMCAS is a fantastic platform indeed. And I must say that I've been in contact with IMCAS for the past 12, 15 years, and IMCAS has been fantastic. IMCAS is one of my scientific partners for the Skin and Digital Summit, and they are helping greatly. And as you were saying, they are also one in China next year because they are the main congress, which is in Paris, which is free international. Yeah, as you were saying, there is 17,000 attendees. There is over 1,000 speakers. So it's definitely a big operation. And they have been helping me in order to bring the Skin and Digital Summit in other regions of the world. Yeah.
You're amazing, Dominique. I applaud you for all your efforts, and you're really helping bring the digital revolution to the forefront, Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Give Good Face. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And follow along on social at Dr. Anthony Rossi and at Rossi DERM MD.